We're back for the second part of our problem, study problem 6-11. So we have already a good idea about the annualized return for Zemin. Let me remind you of what we got earlier. So the annualized expected the annualized return, previous return. So these are realized return in that case. Annualized return for Zemin was I believe we found out to be 20% versus the annualized return for the market, which is 18%. Now let's go to the second part of the problem. It turns out that our company has a 1.54 beta. The market obviously beta is 1, right? The market beta is always 1. The risk-free rate of return is 4%. So this is the rate of return you would earn if you invested in the, for example, US Treasury bills. So given that fact, so what would have been an appropriate required return for an investor owning Zemin, given this risk profile of 1.54? Recall the difference between standard deviation and beta, right? So they both measure riskiness of an investment, but with a flavor. If you have a well-diversified portfolio, you add a new investment into that portfolio, it makes more sense to look at the beta of that security. Whereas if you are just investing in a single investment, then you don't have to worry about the beta. All you worry about is this standard deviation of that investment. Now going back to our problem, we will be making use of the capital asset pricing model, obviously, to calculate the required return. The required return for our company, for Zemin, that's the name of our company, would be equal to the risk-free return plus the beta of our security, in that case Zemin, times the market risk premium. And let me actually write it in the long form. It would be the return of the market minus the risk-free. Okay, so let's just plug in the numbers. The risk free return, so it's 4% return on the riskless assets, the treasury bill. The beta for our company is 1.54 times the market return, as I said earlier, was 18%. 18% minus the riskless return is 4%. All now we need to do is to plug in these values that we did. Just do the algebra. We get 4% plus 1.54 times 14%, which is 21.6%. So therefore, adding up these numbers, we get 25.6%. So that was the required rate of return for Zemin, for our security. However, the realized return is below this value, right? The realized return for Zemin was 20%. This 20% is less than the required return. So in that previous, I believe 6 months it was, our stock actually underperformed. So, so we can say in part C that compared with its systematic risk that Zemin have measured in terms of its beta, it was supposed to provide a 25% return, whereas in the past 6 months it only provided 20% return. So it did not perform as well as it should have. So you can write an explanation along these lines. Alright, so that would do. That would solve this problem, and we are done.